Hi children, this is Lakshmi Arvinda. Today we are going to see about the second chapter, Introduction to Euclid's Geometry. Here if we'll see, before going into the chapter, first we will see what is a geometry and uh, what all the different ancient from the ancient times, what all the different inventions made on the geometry and all in a briefly children. First of all, if we'll see the word geometry, the word is derived from the Greek words geo and metrin. What is meant by geo means is nothing but earth, and metrin is nothing but a measure. So this geometry is originated from the measuring of a land. After that, many of our ancient mathematicians working on this part of a mathematics children is nothing but a geometry. For example, if we'll see in a Egypt, that time only children, not this time. Whenever the Nile River was overflowing, it was wiping out all the boundary places, whatever it is there next to that Nile River children. Once after that overflowing is get settled, again that people Egyptians were reconstructing that all the places which was wiped out by the Nile River, are means reconstructing or rebounding by using small areas, means by using the formulas of areas, each and everything children. So means what we can conclude means they were using that all geometry from that time onwards while they are doing constructions and all. Even we can see that children, Egyptians know the find how to find the volume of truncated pyramid also that time only children. What is the truncated pyramid means? If we'll remove the cone part from the pyramid, then we will get this truncated pyramid. And also children, whenever we'll come for our Indian mathematics means like a geometry, how it's we can see that one of the great civilization, Indus Valley civilization children. Here if we'll see, they used geometry a lot. Whoever the used for construction means, we can see a proper constructions like a underground drainage system and roads which will be parallel to each other. And also children, they were using a bricks which will be measured length, breadth and height as 4:2:1 in a proper way, in a particular way. So what we can conclude means they were very good in a mensuration and practical arithmetic. And also children, afterwards Babylonians and Egyptians, each and everyone's children, they will be doing many things practically on the geometry children, but they are not focusing on what is the reasoning, and they are not framing any structures for that statements, how they are using that and all children. But first time the Greek mathematicians started doing that deductive reasoning on the mathematics. So whenever we will see Thales, one of the Greek mathematician, was credited to be a shown the first proof, well-known proof. What was that proof means? The circle can be divided into two equal parts by its diameter. This was the first proof proved by the Greek mathematician Thales. After that children, well-known person Pythagoras and his group, till 300 BCE also, they were doing many inventions on the geometry children. So if we'll come for the Euclid children, he was one of the math teacher in a one of the math teacher in the math teacher at Alexandria in Egypt, collected all the known work and arranged it in a famous treatise, is nothing but elements. This all is called as elements. Again he divided that elements into 13 chapters children. Each chapter is called as a book. This book is influenced the entire world a lot children. Now from that book, what and all he defined, some definitions and also some postulates from axioms, each and everything he defined. So that from that we are going to discuss a few in this chapter children. Now if we'll see, first one, Euclid's definitions about different geometry things children. What and all definitions you gave means, First one, about a point. What his definition is saying is a point has no part or dimension. If we'll take a point, children, it will be not having any part again in it, and also we cannot see any dimensions in that point. And if we'll take one line, a line has no breadth. Line we can extend in a lengthwise, children, but if you observe there will be no breadth. This is the definition given by the Euclid for the line. Next, children, end of the lines are points. If I want to end the line, we no need to draw one more lines. For that we can put one point is enough. That is nothing but end of lines are points. Next, a straight line can will be lies evenly with the points on itself. Is nothing but if you observe any one straight line, even a one point will not come out. If it one point will not come out, then it won't be a straight line. So evenly it will mix with the points whatever it is there on it. The same thing, next one, a surface. If we'll take a surface, children, is a two-dimensional which will be having a length and breadth. The best example you can take your exam pad, slate and all, where you can observe a length and breadth. Next, edges of the surface are lines. If we'll see any edge of the surface, it will be a line, children. Next, a plane surface is a surface which lies evenly with the straight lines on itself. Whenever you will take a straight line, it will mix it points on evenly with on it. Whenever we will take the straight line, it will mix, it will lies evenly with the straight lines on it. These are the different definitions, children. Now if we will come for axioms and postulates. Axiom and postulate is nothing but, children, a simple definition is these are the truths, true assumptions. True assumptions means these are the statements which is the true assumptions without no need of any proof for these statements. By using these statements, we will prove many things in the mathematics. So now come for here, assumptions. Before we can prove anything, we must begin with the initial set of assumptions. If we want to prove something, first we have to start with some initial set of assumptions. Maybe it may be like this, it might be like this, like this. Next, there are two types of assumptions. First one is axioms. Axioms is assumptions which will be applicable to the mathematics, entire mathematics. For example, if we'll take A is equals to B and A is added by C and B also added by C, then both also will be equal. That is A plus C is equal to B plus C. Next one is a postulate, an assumption which will be applicable for a branch of a mathematics, that is geometry. Simple is a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points. 2 points we can join with a many lines, children. But if we'll see in that, a straight line will be the shortest distance between the 2 points. Next, children, we will see Euclid's axioms. Some of the Euclid's axioms, children. The first axiom is, it says that if the two things are equal to the same thing, then these things are equal to each other. Here if we'll see the example, if first triangle and second triangle and third triangle, if first triangle 1 is equal to the second triangle and triangle 2 is equal to the triangle 3 is equal to the second triangle. Again, children, if triangle 1 is equal to the second triangle and triangle 3 is equal to the second triangle, means both are equal to the second triangle. Now we can take that triangle 1 is equal to triangle 3. Next, if equals are added to equals, then wholes are equal. If two sets of equal things is there, if I'll add, for example, here A is equals to B, C is equals to D. If I'll add that equal things, left hand side A plus C and right hand side B plus D. If I'll add the two things, then again the wholes are also equal. So A plus C is equal to B plus C. In a same way, equals are subtracted from the equals, then the remainders are equal. This is like a same as above point, but here above point we added, here we are going to subtract. Next one, children, Fourth axiom. What is that means? Fourth axiom says that two things as identical, then they must be equal. This point also we can say that if two things are coinciding, then we can say that two things are equal. Here if you'll see L1 and L2 both also identically going on a same line. So we can take that L1 is equals to L2. And fifth axiom is, children, a whole is greater than a part. Here the name itself it is showing that the whole is a greater than a part. If you see the entire triangle, here the green triangle is a part of a triangle. We can observe very clearly the entire triangle is greater than a part of a green triangle. Next, things which are double of the same things are equal to one another. If two things we will take as equal, then doubles if we will take also it will be equal. For example, A is equals to B. Then we can take 2A is equals to 2B. Even a half C we will take also it will be equal, children. For example, A is equals to B. A by 2 is equals to B by 2. Next, you will see the Euclid postulates, children. First one, a straight line may be drawn from any one point to any other point. So, one straight line can be drawn from one line to any another point. Note that this postulate tells us that at least one straight line passes through two distinct points. At least one straight line will pass through two distinct points. But it does not say that there cannot be more than one such line. So, however, in his work, Euclid has frequently assumed without mentioning that there is a unique line joining two distinct points. So, we state this in the form of an axiom as follows. What is that means? Given two distinct points, there is a unique line that passes through them. Here if we will take any 2 points, many lines will be passing through the point P and many lines is passing through the point Q. But we can see that only one line which is passing through both the points P and Q, that line is PQ. Next, postulate number 2. A terminated line can be produced indefinitely. Is nothing but one line if will terminate both the sides, then we can produce it indefinitely. Next, children, postulate number 3. A circle can be drawn with any center and any radius. Means with any center and any radius we can draw a circle. All right angles are equal to one another. Is nothing but, if any right angle is nothing but 90 degrees. If we will take any right angles and all the right angles, any two right angles will be always equal. Next, children, postulate number 5, which is little bit confused postulate also. I will explain you. If a straight line falling on two straight lines makes the interior angle on the same side of it taken together less than two right angles, is nothing but less than two right angles is 90 means less than 180 degrees. Then the two straight lines, if produced indefinitely, meet on that side on which the sum of angles is less than the two right angles. Here I will explain it with the example, it will be more clear, children. If you will see here, two lines AB and CD, and PQ is one of the line which is falling on AB and CD. And if we will take, what is the fifth postulate is saying means, if we will take one side of the angles for the PQ, if we will take one side of the angles for the PQ, then if that sum of that one side of the angles is 180 less than 180 degrees, then the two lines will meet each other that side only. For example, here if we can observe that one side of the angles 1 and 2, if we will take the sum, by seeing that only we can say that the two angles will be less than 180 degrees, less than two right angles. So if we will extend here and see to that side, then both will meet this side of that PQ, children. Next, we will see some few sums from the exercise 2.1. First one is, which of the following statement is it true, and please give a reason they are saying. First one is, only one line can pass through a single point. Is it a true? Only one line can pass through a single point? No, children. We can draw many lines from a single point. So, it's a false statement. because the number of lines can pass through a single point. Next, there are an infinite number of lines which pass through two distinct points. If we'll take two distinct points, we can draw infinite number of lines. No, we can draw only one line. So again it's a false. Next, a terminated line can be produced indefinitely on both the sides. It is true only, no? Which postulate, children, it is? It is the second postulate from the Euclid. So this is a true statement. Next, if two circles are equal, then the radii are equal. This is true because circumference of equal circles are equal. Their distance is same from the center. So hence radius of two circles also equal. If the circumference we will take, if two circles are equal, then circumference will be equal, no? If we'll take the two circles circumference are equal, then automatically this radius also will get equal. Now here fifth one. In a figure 2.9, if AB is equals to PQ and XY is equals to PQ, then AB is equals to XY. Yes, it's a true, children. Which one it is? This is, if you'll see the axiom number 1, the things which is equal to the same thing will be equal to each other. Here, this is equal. Next, children. Question number 2. Give a definition for each of the following terms as there other terms that need to be defined first. Here they are asking the definition of each and every term, and also if it is there any undefined term in the definition, again they are asking the definition of that also. First one is parallel lines. So the parallel line is nothing but two lines. Your line is means there will be no end points. The two lines, if will extend to infinite also, there will be no intersecting point between the two lines. Here what all the points we can see which is undefined means which we have to define means a point. Point, what is the definition of the point from the Euclid, children? A point is that which has no part. Next, straight line. What is the definition of a straight line from the Euclid, children? Straight line is a line which lies evenly with the points on itself. Next, perpendicular line. Here, what is the mere definition of perpendicular line means if two rays, any two rays if we'll take, if they are meeting, they are intersecting at 90 degrees, then that the two lines or two rays is called as a perpendicular lines. Here what all the two things we have to define means ray and angle. What is meant by ray? Which can be extended one side infinitely. One side there will be an end. And angle. What is meant by angle means if two lines will intersect each other, it will form one angle. Next, segment. Segment is formed when two endpoints are joined. Here two endpoints means both the sides also there is an endpoint. Then we will call it as a segment and it's a straight line also. So what all the defined terms we have to see means straight line, starting point, ending point and segment. And we know already what is the definition of a point and straight line. Next, radius of a circle. See, here if you'll see, circle is a set of points moves from a fixed point. So, that equal distance is radius of a circle. If we'll take a circle is a set of points moves from a fixed point. Here, whatever the distance we will take from that fixed point to that remaining points, no, that distance is called as a radius. Next, square. Square is a figure in which all sides and angles are equal. Here all sides will be equal. Here I have taken 4 centimeters. Here whatever it may be, all sides should be equal. And angles all should be equal means here compulsory 90 degrees should be there for the square. Next, question number 4. If a point C lies between 2 points A and B such that AC is equals to BC, then prove that AC is equal to half of the AB. If the C is a point which is lying between AB and they are saying that AC is equals to BC, then we have to prove that AC will be a half of the entire line. So how we can prove that means, first one, what to prove is AC is half of the AB, and now I will take that whatever they given. What is that means? AC is equal to BC. So both the sides I am adding AC AC. If I'll add AC AC children, the left hand side we will get 2AC and right hand side BC plus AC. So BC plus AC is nothing but AB, isn't it? So 2AC is equals to AB. Now AC is equals to, if this 2, if it will go that side, half of AB. Next. In question number 4, point C is called as a midpoint. If line segment AB, prove that every line segment has one and only one midpoint. Answer. Now they are saying that the C in a last question is a midpoint. Exactly, it will be in a middle. So we have to prove that only one midpoint will be there for any line. How we can prove means, I will take two midpoints children. Then I will prove myself it's a wrong. Here if we will take children, let's take C and D are the 2 points lying on the AB. Now I'll take C as a midpoint first. If C is the midpoint, here, if C is the midpoint, we know that AC is equal to BC because it's a midpoint. And then, now adding AC on both the sides. AC plus AC is equal to BC plus AC. From this, we can write that 2AC is equal to AC plus BC is nothing but AB. So we will take 2AC is equal to AB. And again, by using the D as a midpoint, if I'll assume D also midpoint, we can take that AD is equal to DB. Same way, add both the sides AD, AD. So we will get 2AD is equals to AB as above. Now we can say that both the left hand side AB is equals to AB. So right hand side both also AB it is there for first and second equation. So we can take the right hand side is equal. That is 2AC is equal to 2AD. So 2 will get cancelled. AC is equal to AD. When it will be true means AC equal to AD, when there will be a coincidence of C and D. So we are having both the C and D will coincide, and we are having only one midpoint, that is either C or D. Now question number 7 children. Why axiom 5 in a list of Euclid's axioms considered to be a universal truth? Now answer. Euclid's fifth axiom of Euclid states that the whole is greater than the part. It's a universal truth, no children. Any whole if you will take, it's a always the whole will be a greater than part. If we'll take our human body only, human body will be greater than our fingers, isn't it? Next children, equivalent versions of Euclid's fifth postulate. Here if we'll see, for this fifth postulate children, again some mathematicians founded different versions. So in that versions, Playfair axiom, which is given by the Scottish mathematician John Playfair in 1729, which I will discuss in a next session children. And from this almost all the sums I only explained, but here I gave one of the project. You will be having one project book with you children, one separate book, 100 pages book, white pages. In that you have to write this project. Please collect the information about any 3 mathematicians, Indian mathematicians, with their pictures, what all their inventions and year of invention, each and everything you collect and write it in your project book children. Thank you children. Keep learning. Lakshmi Aravinda.